Harbor Freight might be the king of budget tools, and if you're just getting started woodworking or you're on a budget trying to build out your shop, there are a lot of good options at Harbor Freight. But there are some that you should absolutely avoid in my opinion, and there's some secrets I'll share later in the video on how to save money at Harbor Freight and things you should watch out for. Let's go. If you're just getting started with your tool set, there are some essential tools I think you should buy. And the bucket is not one, although we'll talk about it later. First, I think the drill and impact are two of the most essential tools that any woodworker could own. When I started woodworking, I had to borrow a drill and a circular saw just to get started because I didn't even have enough money to pay attention. You know what I'm saying? We were broke. But finding good budget options along the way have helped me scale the woodworking business and to be able to add to my tool set. I think the Hercules Drill and Impact might be a good budget option for you. I bought these just a while back and I've been using them around the shop for a couple of months now just to give them a good test and see how I like them. First, let's talk about the drill. First thing I noticed picking this drill up out of the box is it's very ergonomic. It fits in the hand very, very well. I like how balanced and how good this feels. Sometimes you just pick up a tool, it just doesn't feel right. This one's nice. It's just balanced nice. I appreciate that. This is a 2-speed drill. As you see on the top, you can switch those from 1 to 2. There are 13 different settings here on the chuck for torque settings from 1 all the way to 13, and there is a drill setting and a hammer drill setting. So this is a hammer drill. It does have standard forward and reverse switches, just like you would expect on all drills, except the Milwaukee M12 installation driver. For some reason, they decided to put the settings on the top on a push button style. This is better. This is a brushless drill, and we like to see brushless motors because they're going to give you better power and better battery life. Just real world use of this, drilling some holes. I drilled some pretty good size holes, almost 2-inch holes. I think it was 1 7/8 with this Forstner bit. As you can see, I'm blasting right through this pine without any issues. I did set it on the number 1 setting just to show that it can go at a lower speed. Bump that up to a number 2 and you can blast right through. So it's a very versatile drill. I think it'll do most anything you're going to need to do in a wood shop. If you need a good solid drill, this might be the one to look at. I bought this with an impact driver and quite impressed with that as well. Impact also, again, very well balanced. These do feel very similar in the hand, balanced, just all around nice feeling tools. So a lot of times you think if you're getting a budget tool or you're getting tools from Harbor Freight, you're getting a lesser product, or some people may think that. It's kind of like what people think about Ryobi. It's just not true. Like, a lot of this stuff is very good. Of course, there are some things in the Ryobi line to avoid, in the Harbor Freight line to avoid, and we'll talk about those. But overall, I've been quite impressed with this Hercules Drill and Impact. This does have 3 LEDs surrounding that 1/4-inch bit holder. It works like any other Impact just to insert and eject bits. Although this one is just fairly new, but it is a little grippy, which is not a bad thing overall. Not going to fall, bits aren't going to fall out, but you do have to kind of wiggle it to get it out. This also has 4 speed settings. There is a low, medium, and high, as well as an automatic setting which will just ramp up as much power as it needs. It's like a battery saving setting if you like to use that. Personally, I'm go big or go home. I usually stick it on number 3 and let it roll. This also is a brushless tool, and it does have that forward and reverse switch. Those LEDs do stay on for a decent amount of time, so that's a good option for you if you just need some extra light. Not a whole lot to say. Nice little Impact. I use it to putting together the Bauer dust collector. Works good. I think most every woodworker, especially after you kind of get your base tool set, you need to get a router, especially like an edge or trim router. I think a lot of people should just start with a small router like this for doing edge profiles like roundovers, even cutting small grooves and things like that. And this thing, it's pretty nice. Overall, fits nicely in the hand. Again, one of my complaints with the DeWalt router was it's so big. When you're trying to use it, my hand starts kind of cramping. I much prefer the Milwaukee trim router. This one does fit in my hand nicely, and this does have the variable speed from 1 to 6. That gives you from 10 to 30,000 RPMs on that speed setting there. This is a push button on and off switch. What I found kind of interesting, a lot of your basic trim routers, they have like a flip switch that turns them on and off. This is much like a Makita router that has the on button and off button. This you push, you can't just tap it. If you tap it, it'll turn the light on, but it actually won't turn the bit on. You have to push and hold the on button for it to come on. Just tap the off button, it goes off. The adjustable base on here is pretty nice. It has a really nice lever to lock that. Nice padded there, locks into place nicely. You can adjust it like a big adjustment with that push button right there. Slide it in and out. And then also there is a fine-tune adjustment knob right here that really lets you dial in the depth exactly where you need it. Kind of like this, actually. I was very surprised coming out of the box. I was not expecting to like this Hercules router, but it's pretty good. It does have a couple of, well, one unique feature that I haven't seen on any other router, especially comes in the box. And we'll talk about that. But first, it does come with an edge guide. I absolutely love when routers come with edge guides. I think all of them should. Not all do, but all should. This is great for doing what you need to do with an edge guide. Maybe you need to put a groove an inch away from the edge of the board. This does a really good job. First test I did with the edge guide was I plunged this pretty deep. Like this groove here is probably close to a little over 1/2 inch, and this is a 1/2 inch bit. With a bit this size, about 1/8 to 3/8 inches deep is about all you want to do in a single pass. I went about double that. The router handled it fine, which I was quite surprised by. Backing it off to an acceptable or a more common cut depth that you would use, absolutely flawless. Like it made a very, very nice groove. Solid router with this straight bit. Of course, what this trim router is really meant for most of the time is going to be edge profiles, roundovers, chamfers, that sort of thing. Throwing a roundover bit in here and just making a roundover cut, perfect. No issues at all here. This router comes with something very unique that I haven't seen any other router come with, and that is this little jewel. And that is a roller guide. So basically what you can do with this is use your straight bits and cut rabbets on the edge or outside edge of a board. And I'm sure you can use this for a ton of other things. I thought that was quite interesting, and this is actually well made. This edge guide, well made. This router, well made. Base, well made. Like everything about this surprised me. I kind of almost set myself up to not like this before I come out of the box, but so far these Hercules cordless tools, I like them. Now everybody knows woodworkers need clamps, and there's 3 specific clamps I recommend from Harbor Freight. First, this Pittsburgh bar clamp, and the reason I recommend these, this thing's like 5 foot long, is because sometimes you just need a long clamp just to hold stuff together while the glue dries. When I was building this workbench, I used these to hold the frame together while the glue dries. I've used these to build flags. I've used these over the years. I've had these for like 8 years. They're nice. For the price you're getting, this is a 60-inch clamp. For the price you're getting of a 60-inch clamp, you can't beat it. You can't beat it. Now, some people complain that they're not robust enough because it's just an aluminum kind of C-shape, C-channel. You can cut a piece of wood and stick in here and it'll shore these up if you need them to be more rigid. I have not. I've used these a bunch. Second, the Bremen parallel clamp. These are very hard to beat for the price. I put these up against all major brand of parallel clamps in a test, a whole video on that. These performed very well, very well. Now, if you have the money, I think Bessie Jet is very expensive unless you can find them on rare deals. I think Bessie's probably the best all-around clamp just to go with. But if you're on a budget and you're looking for solid parallel clamps, this is the ones I recommend. Next, what I used to think was old man clamps. I used to think these were meant for older woodworkers, but these are hand screw clamps. I use these all the time when I got them in the shop, especially if I need something held up vertically. Like when I'm drilling into the side of this board here, I need this held up vertically. These clamps do the trick. You can use these to hold up plywood, 2x, whatever. These are just really good clamps to have. You can use these to hold small parts of the drill press. You can use these as stop blocks on your router table. Like there's a multitude of uses for these things, and Harbor Freight sells these cheap, cheap, cheap. Now, if you watch my channel much at all, you know I don't recommend the F-style bar clamps from Harbor Freight. I don't think they're very well made. I think they're using cheaper metals and they bend very easily. I bought several, of course, when I first started because they were budget friendly. I was able to get some and they did a fair job for a little while, but if you put a little bit of too much pressure on them, they do start bending. And so I think you're better off just getting something like Irwin's or Jorgensen or some of those type brand clamps. So that's why I would really just avoid those if you can. One of the tools I was most impressed with from Harbor Freight was the Hercules table saw. Now, I had previously went into a Harbor Freight and I saw a table saw that I didn't like. It was a Hercules table saw, had an old style fence. I thought this was bad, 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 and I didn't even try to test it. I hate those style fences. Ryobi has a table saw like that. I just don't think they're good. Those are so old, outdated fences, the rack and pinion fence is far superior, and the new Hercules 10-inch saw has that rack and pinion fence. I put this thing through the paces, a whole review video on that thing. It is absolutely mind-blowing that a budget table saw like this is that good. I was very impressed with this thing. You can cut thicker hardwoods, sheet goods, everything you're going to want to cut with a table saw, this thing will do it. The blade that comes on there is really good. I was very surprised by that. A lot of times you get a higher end table saw that comes with a much lesser quality blade. I think Harbor Freight did it right with this saw. If you have a job site style table saw like that, a lot of times you want to upgrade the fence on it. I do recommend the bow extender fence. It gives you in-feed and out-feed support, as well as vertical pressure down on your stock. Using their feather boards, just an all-around good upgrade for a table saw. If you already have a job site saw, check that out. But if you don't, and you're looking for a budget level table saw, the Hercules is a good option to check out. Now let's talk dust collection, because if you're cutting wood, you're producing dust, and we need to collect that dust when possible. Now, Harbor Freight has 3 different options here that I've personally tested that I really liked. First, if you're on a very strict budget, check out the Bauer shop vac. It works extremely well, plenty of suction power, has a bag included that's going to keep your filters from getting dirty, and then also pair that with the cyclone separator. Remember this Harbor Freight bucket? They sell these buckets very cheap too, and then there is a cyclone separator that sets on top, and what that's going to do is separate out the large chunks of wood. It's going to spin, you'll see it spinning in there. All the large wood or dust chunks are going to fall into the bucket, which means they're not going into your shop vac and filling up your bag and stopping up your filter. Only the fine dust that's light enough to stay airborne will go into the shop vac and be filtered out. This is a very solid option to start out with dust collection if you're on a budget. If you have a bigger budget and you're very concerned about the very tiny particles that get into the air, which get into your lungs, you have to check out probably one of the best Harbor Freight tools that I've ever used, and that is the Hercules dust extractor. This dust extractor is fantastic. This rivals a Festool dust extractor as far as in suction performance, dust collection, everything like that. Like, it's a very good competitor at a fraction of the cost. A dust extractor is different than a shop vac in that it has HEPA filtration. In other words, it's going to filter out the very, very, very fine dust. And there's volume control, not on the sound, but on the suction amount. A dust extractor, you can turn down that suction, and what that means is you'll be able to basically keep your sander from being sucked down into the stock that you're sanding. If you're putting too much pressure on your sander or the suction is pulling down into the stock, it's going to create those little pigtails you see when you start applying stains. So this is going to help you get better finishes when you can dial down that suction. Or if you're using routers or track saws or anything else with a dust extractor, you can crank that thing up and get as much suction as possible. I think this is one of the best upgrades or best tools that Harbor Freight has put out in a very long time. But it's not really meant to collect the dust from things like table saws, jointers, planers, anything like that, because they just put out too much volume of dust for that thing to keep up with. But Bauer does have a very nice dust collector, very easy to assemble. I was actually surprised, and it goes down to 2 microns in filtration. It also has a filter cleaning option. You just turn that handle up top, it cleans the filter out, and it comes with everything you need except the hose. I do recommend picking up this hose. This comes from Amazon. It is also very budget friendly, and I paired this with the lightning lock from Carbon Method so that we can make dust collection very easy in the shop by just being able to move it around. If you're in a small shop like me, I don't have dedicated piping for dust collection. I use this flex hose to go from tool to tool. This helps conserve space in my shop while also giving me dust collection, and paired with these lightning lock adapters makes it so easy. I was very impressed with the Bauer dust collector performance. It did a fantastic job on the planer, the table saw. It's just a good all-around option. If you're on a budget, it's hard to find a dust collector that collects this much dust with this much CFM in this price range. I think they did a good job. Now, I purchased the Hercules dust extractor myself. Harbor Freight was kind enough to send over the Bauer dust collector for me to try out, as well as the shop vac and cyclone separator. One of the very first big tool purchases I made in woodworking was a miter saw, the DeWalt DWS 779 to be exact. Hercules has a direct competitor to that saw. It's actually a competitor to the 780, which is the Hercules 12-inch miter saw. I have heard a ton of good things about this saw from a lot of you out there. I've personally not tested it yet. If you'd like to see a review on that, comment miter saw. I'll look into picking it up. Now we're going to talk about some secrets of Harbor Freight you might not know, but first there's some tools here that I would probably avoid at Harbor Freight based on my experience and stuff I know. First, measuring tools, I don't trust them. I laid 2 rulers side by side in Harbor Freight and they were wildly inaccurate. I do recommend this tape measure right here. It's a fast cap tape measure, it's old standby. There's also a lefty righty tape measure on Amazon. These are like less than $10. These are fantastic tape measures. I use these all the time in the shop. I think they're one of the best tape measures ever made. I'm not buying Harbor Freight tape measures. I'm gonna buy this one, but that's just me. You let me know if Harbor Freight tape measures work for you. Now, this might be wildly wrong of me, but because those rulers didn't line up, I don't trust their squares either. And so I'll just buy my squares elsewhere. There's a lot of good options out there. Eye gauging makes some good options. There's good options on Amazon. Win makes a good option. There's a lot of good budget-friendly squares out there that you can use. Probably the Speed Square, Swanson Speed Square is the kind of end-all be-all square that most people own anyway. It's less than $20. I think it's probably less than $10. For me, that's a no-brainer to pick up a Swanson Speed Square versus the Harbor Freight squares. I'll link to my favorites in the description. And finally, I tested almost every sander under $100, including the Bauer, including the Hercules. I was not impressed with either one of those. Hercules fared a little bit better than the Bauer in that testing. If it was me and my money, I'm buying a DeWalt. It's a list barely under $100, like $80, $90. And if that's outside your budget, for $20 or $30 cheaper, there's a Craftsman that's basically a replica of that DeWalt. Those are the 2 sanders I would recommend over the ones at Harbor Freight. Here's some secrets and tips that you may not know about Harbor Freight. First, there's a good, better, best pricing strategy there. If you go walk into Harbor Freight and you see Chicago Electric, you see Bauer, and you see Hercules. It's kind of the 3 main lines. I know they have Warrior, they have some other ones there too, Central Machinery, but that's kind of the base 3 options. That is a pricing strategy. If you look at good, better, best, most people want to go for the middle option, which is the Bauer. If it was me and my money, and it was my money, I went with these Hercules Drill and Impact for cordless because it's the better option. They're just higher quality tools, which is why they cost a little bit more. And the price difference is negligible on most things. Now there's some that don't have a competitor like the Bauer Dust Extractor, the big one. There's not a Hercules competitor to that, as far as I know. And the Hercules Dust Extractor, there's not a Bauer Dust Extractor. So sometimes you're not going to get a direct competitor, but a lot of times you're going to see those tools lined up side by side, and that is a pricing strategy that's been used by everybody from McDonald's to Walmart. Everybody. There's a good, better, best. It's a psychology thing for most people. Most people aren't going to get the very low end. Most people aren't going to get the high end. Most people are going to kind of go middle of the road. So just know that when you walk in there, there may be better options, but make sure you look at what you're buying and decide if that's going to work for you. If you're just doing a project once a year, Chicago Electric probably be your best thing to get. It's the cheapest, you're barely going to use it, you'll probably be fine. If you only use your tools once a month, twice a month, Bauer probably do just fine. If you use them a little more often, I would look at the Hercules line of tools. So we already know Harbor Freight is a budget option for most things, not everything, for most things. But you can also save more money at Harbor Freight, and a lot of people already know this, but some people don't. You can sign up for their coupons. You can get those in email or you can get those text to you or both. And they're going to send them to you absolutely free, and tools go on sale fairly often. We're talking about good tools. The Hercules table saw I bought on sale with a coupon. And a lot of those coupons you can use in-store and online, which is what I did. I bought online. The Hercules miter saw, as the day of this filming, it's on sale today. So you can get savings on tools you're wanting, especially if you're patient, just by using those coupons. There's also a website called hfqpdb.com. It's like a search engine for Harbor Freight coupons. So if you're just looking for a coupon, you don't know if there's one out there, go to this website. I have no affiliation with them. I just found this by Google search. Check them out. You might save some money. There's also an insider track club at Harbor Freight that's $29 a year, and what that basically does is it's almost like an Amazon Prime kind of for Harbor Freight, but not the same. Basically what this is going to do is give you exclusive member-only deals, so only insider track members will get deals on these certain items. It also gives you early access to some sales, and it gives you automatic discounts in-store and online on a variety of stuff. Not sure if that's worth it to most people, but if you shop at Harbor Freight a lot, it's certainly worth looking into. Harbor Freight price tags also tell a little bit of a story here. The orange price tags are clearance items. You can't use coupons on those, but those are on clearance. If you see a purple price tag, that means that is a returned item or an open box item. You may want to make sure that all the parts and pieces are there because it could be missing something, or you may be just getting a killer deal on something that somebody bought and didn't want and brought back. So just make sure and check those out before buying. Now, warranty is one of those things that a lot of people get shook up on. Now, a lot of your corded tools have a 90-day warranty. Buy an upgraded warranty, like the Hercules dust extractor is a 90-day warranty. After that, it's out of warranty unless you purchase the upgrade. A lot of people opt to purchase the upgrade on the warranty, but a lot of people just go with the 90-day. It's up to you. Now, these Hercules cordless tools have a 5-year warranty, which is a very solid warranty for any cordless tool, other than rigid, which is lifetime service agreement, not warranty. One thing to be very aware of, though, when you buy from Harbor Freight, a lot of times, or some tools, a lot of tools have a 20% restocking fee. So if you bought some tool that you thought was going to be amazing and you got it home and it wasn't, and you want to return it, like it's not damaged, it's not defective, you're just returning it, there could be a 20% restocking fee on that item, so be careful with that. Another way you can save money on Harbor Freight tools, or any tool really, is sign up for my Daily Deals email list. It's absolutely free. First link in the description and the pinned comment. I'll be on the lookout for the best deals possible. What Harbor Freight tools are you using? Would you like to see me review the miter saw? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, check out the Hercules dust extractor review. It's pretty cool. Click in that box, get you the big old virtual fist bump.